I'll lead in the pledge, since I got no way out. Tom, lead us in the pledge. Allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Take the roll, please.
Mayor. Satterfield.
Here.
Brooks.
Here.
Freitag. Frisalow.
Here.
Gold. Hart. Moran. Ogalla. Weigel. And Musett.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Next, the approval of minutes. The executive committee minutes from December 3rd. Motion second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Executive committee from December 10th. Motion second. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Committee of the whole from December 10th.
Motion.
Move. Second. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any old business to bring forward today? Okay. Is there any other old business to bring forward today? No? Then under new business, we have a presentation of the specialized units of, within the state's attorney's office. I always think this is probably something worthwhile for the board, especially for board members who maybe have not heard it in the past. Some of the things we approve for funding, why it's so important, what great results we get, and in some instances, we got these great units and great employees. So I think Ken's going to do their presentation. Oh, you're up there at my desk. Okay. So Ken's there. He's going to use the microphone from there. So, or would you rather come down here and use this one?
I'm very comfortable right here,
Okay.
Mr. Muses.
Okay.
I've been invited by the Chief of Staff here to sit in your seat. I hope that's okay.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, he's up there with you, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If I may. Good morning, everybody. It's always a pleasure to see you. I appreciate a few minutes of your time. I will not take up a lot of it. Certainly, if you have questions, I'm happy to address those with you. And I'd like to, at some point in time, maybe meet with Judiciary or a couple other committees and give a more detailed presentation. I know your time is valuable this morning, and I don't want to waste it, certainly. Give you a little bit of history, though. Most of you are aware, and many of you support it in different degrees, the Child Advocacy Center. The Child Advocacy Center was set up in 1995 based upon state law that allows the creation of such a unit. It's a separate entity from the Will County State's Attorney's Office. It was started by State's Attorney Glasgow, and it is designed when we have a sexual criminal case involving principally children as the victims. And let me give you a little bit of background on that, if I may. And many of you know this, and I apologize for repeating many of the things you already know. But before the creation of the Child Advocacy Center, if a child cried out as a result of molestation at school or through the mom or dad, it would involve the police going out to investigate. That child would be interviewed by a patrol officer many times. It would be then moved up to a detective position. That child would be interviewed again. The child may be interviewed at the hospital by a doctor, by a nurse. My point is that, and the problem we had over the years historically, have been that the child would have, now we're talking many times, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8-year-old child who's now been interviewed 4, 5, 6 different times. That is a very difficult thing from a prosecution standpoint. It's hard enough for us as adults to remember everything in great detail and to repeat it 8 times or 6 times, precisely the same. And no disrespect to defense counsel for their doing their job pursuant to Constitution and what they're sworn to do, and that's to defend their clients in the best way possible. But if you tell a story slightly differently, twice, much less 3 or 4 times, because of the color of a shirt or were they wearing shoes or not wearing shoes, et cetera. You get the point. The cases are extremely difficult to prove. So, in response to that, legislation was passed to create Children's Advocacy Center. What's the desire here? The desire is, in the direction of the police, are that upon the allegation of this type of a case, the child is not to be interviewed by the patrol officer or detective or anyone else except for a forensically trained interviewer in a non-threatening, in a situation that's neutral. So hence the Children's Advocacy Center, and the interviewers are forensically trained and certified. They continually go for further training. Those interviews are recorded video and audio one time. So now we have that one statement instead of multiple statements. During the interview, there's present an assistant state's attorney, representative from the Department of Children and Family Services, the detective from the reporting agency, and they are all in a separate room together. The child is sitting alone with the forensic interviewer. No one is invited in there with them. And the questions are very open. They're not designed to elicit a specific response or trying to direct them one way or the other. So they've held up tremendously over the years. The conviction rates have risen dramatically since 1995. And in most cases, the cases result in a plea of guilty, and a plea agreement. So the center has proved itself to be incredibly valuable. We average approximately countywide 350 VSIs. Those are victim-sensitive interviews where the child is there. It also is designed to ferret out those false allegations which may occasionally occur. I've run across them a number of times where there may be a divorce, and sadly, the children are pawns in that divorce, and some allegations may be made, and we try to ferret those out as well. So not all of those 350 victim-sensitive interviews result in charges being filed by our office. And hopefully, many times, and I've seen it happen, I've been involved in them, where that abuse stops as a result of those interviews and our conclusions that we draw therein. So the Child Advocacy Center is a critical aspect of our office. It's a critical need that we have, as well as the effects for the county beneficially. And before I move on to another unit, is there any questions on children's advocacy in the center? And I might point out, by the way, we have a fundraiser coming up. It is a self-sustaining organization. We do get some traffic fines thanks to the county board and leadership, which has been hugely helpful. But our main fundraiser for that's coming up in March. It's called Men Who Cook. Please attend. You're certainly more than welcome. And it's a really, really fun event. We do very well with that. So are there any questions relative to the Children's Advocacy Center? Okay. The next unit that we created, and I want to extend a great deal of thanks to Mr. Mustis, Ms. Drayle, who previously was on the board back in 2012. Mr. Mayor was here. All of those of you who are here, you were hugely critical in helping the state's attorney establish this unit. It's the Will County Crimes Against Children unit where we investigate child pornography and basically track back on who's uploading that or downloading it, and proceed to prosecute that. We went online in February of 2012, and since then we're at about 100 arrests of predators, dissemination of very horrendous videos and images, and the theory behind that has been from the beginning that, and I know this may sound odd, it's not just looking for those images. It's looking for people who, based upon what they're downloading and uploading, would be more inclined than not to be molesters and predators. obviously, for all of us, that's a huge priority. The unit is really one of a kind. We've kind of tracked on what the Attorney General's office has done in the past, and we have ICAC certified investigators and forensics people that work with us that are part of the team. And it's been immensely successful, and for that, I thank certainly State's Attorney Glasgow for originating the idea, and for this county board in 2012, and the various people that were critical in that for financially making that possible. So credit to all of you for that. And you're always welcome. I know many of you have come down, and I've given tours of that unit. And no, you will not see any offensive images, but we ought to explain to you how we do it and what we do. And it is a very effective unit. So I thank you for that, for your support of that. Any other questions on that?
Yeah, I would just add, Ken, I think you said it, but I'm going to perhaps state it a little differently. With child pornography, you know, it's not the images. What it mean, well, it is the images, but just remember, it takes the victimization of a child to create child pornography. You know, and as Mr. Gray stated, it's the images, but what we really go after are the people who create those images, and we've been pretty successful. So it's just not people who are viewing. We're catching people who are actually victimizing the children themselves. I don't know if you want to make any other comment on that, Ken, but, you know, and in some cases, I think we've headed off or stopped children as young as, what, 9 months being victimized.
Well, actually, I hate to even go, you know, try to outdo that, Mr. Musis, but there are infants that are portrayed in a hardcore manner, being abused in every way you can possibly conceive. So it is a horrific area from the standpoint of investigations. The state's attorney and I have very much limited access to any of those materials, and there's only 2 people in our office that have keys to that unit, and they are both investigators in that unit. So it's the only place in our office that's like that. We treat the victimization of children as we all would, very, very confidently and sensitively, and it's a devastating aspect of our society. And what we've tried to focus on is, and I don't want to call them filters, but try to focus on specific aspects of child pornography and the distribution of that to, again, be looking for actual molesters and child predators. And through the filtering process that we do from the standpoint of what you might call red flares or warnings going off, where I will direct, or the state's attorney will direct our investigative team to concentrate on an individual. It is those kind of things, Mr. Musis, that would immediately cause that to be, we go in right away when we see that kind of activity.
And the other comment I would make, because we have this unit, it also gives us, I think, a little more accessibility with the working relationship with the U.S. Attorney and the Attorney General, the state's Attorney General. So that also gives us, I think, a little special status and cooperation because of the work we do.
Exactly. I appreciate you bringing that up. But we're the state's attorney and I and our entire office is very proud of, and I've talked with Mr. Musis many times about it. I'm very grateful for his, and Mr. Maher's, Ms. Freitag's, all of your support, Mr. Frizzlo, in this activity. Many of these cases we are able to cross-prosecute with the feds. So merely because we may charge a state offense, in this case, the feds may additionally charge federal offenses. And it's happened many times. We've had, without going in specifics of cases or names necessarily, which I always hesitate to do, even upon conviction, we've had over-the-road truck drivers who have taken their young daughter on many of these trips, and have abused that child in many jurisdictions. While we certainly were able to prove within our jurisdiction those offenses that occurred here, the feds have been very helpful in handling some other things. So there are deep, dark holes for people like that, and that's where they will be going. So we do have a lot of federal involvement. I communicate with the FBI on a number of levels, many times daily, certainly weekly, which is part of my next presentation, which we've taken some action here of late because of certain matters going on in that regard. But anyway, yes, sir, thank you for pointing that out.
Judy, you have a question?
Mr. Gala?
Yeah, I was just wondering, what do we do with like, say, my daughter was working at Culver's in Moni, right near I-57.
Yes,
okay?
ma'am.
And this couple came in, they drove a semi, they came from Colorado, they made friends with her, they brought her gifts, and I didn't know about that right away. And once I found out about that, I mean, a red flag went up to me. Why in the heck is this couple talking to my daughter and making
Right,
friends?
exactly.
So I'm just curious, do we have any kind of process where we could go, where you guys go, not me necessarily, or I could go, I guess, on your
Right.
behalf, but
Yes.
to these places where young teens work, and they just don't get it. And if their mom and dad says, oh, you know, this and that, they're, of course, oh, mom and dad, you're just freaking out like always. But it's a real thing. Why would this couple from Colorado befriend my daughter? Why?
Well, I can't answer in that specific case, but
Right.
let me address, if I may, the mission of the High-Tech Crimes Unit, or Will County State's Attorney's Internet Crimes Against Children Unit, is multifold. Certainly, investigation of child pornography, dissemination, and other sex crimes that we're talking about here are right on the forefront of that. But another aspect of it that's very, very important, and that I would have with me today our Chief Investigator, Megan Brooks, who I think you would find incredibly impressive. But she's following up on the second mission that the state's attorney assigned to the unit, and that was community education and involvement. And she's right now out, and she's out this evening at another high school addressing internet sexting, the threat that the internet poses to all of us, but especially our children, because these little devices that we have and we take for granted these days, when you think about the power, this is an opening to the world, and it's an incredible device, right? We get a lot of information. If we have a question about some trivia topic, we'll say, well, let's Google that. Well, you know, I'm old enough to remember where we had to go to the library and pull off an encyclopedia book that none of our families could afford, right? We don't need those anymore, so to speak. But what it also does is give an opening to that world for some very bad people to enter your child's bedroom. And that's scary. There's viruses out there that will allow this to be, your video to be on, and you wouldn't know that, your camera to be on, and we wouldn't know that. While you're dressing, while you're sleeping, you've heard of the children's monitors that when my kids were all little, we all had, and, you know, later on it became videos in there. Well, those are dangerous. You know, you have to be careful. They can be tapped into. And I don't want to cause, you know, we've all read about it. It's nothing new here. But something along those lines, and Judy, I'm not saying that this is the case in this case, but some of that's called grooming, and that is a crime when you start trying to entice children through, I might tease my son on air quotes all the time, but where people entice children through friendship and start giving them gifts. Those are all warning signs, unless they're close family friends that you'd invite to their birthday party. But when they start giving gifts of various kinds and nature to your children, those are dangerous, and they're you know, are they creating relationships to take advantage of them later on? Right. When the unit was originally started, we were pushing on the concept of what's called travelers. Now, travelers are those people who are predators, and they will travel to meet your child somewhere, and they first put on airs of being 14 themselves, and then when they show up at the McDonald's parking lot to meet your child of 12 or 13, they're really 25 or 30 or 40. And they come bearing gifts. and it is dangerous. So the aspect, though, that is very important for us is the education of our children and the education of our parents to be watching out for certain things.
Pointed out, if anyone's interested in perhaps going and seeing how the unit operates, has some specific questions, that might be a great opportunity for you to learn a little bit more, and in some cases where to go. Quite frankly, in that case you just mentioned, Judy, a call to the state's attorney would have been helpful. They would have probably made a call to the U.S. attorney and, get a license plate number, and maybe they can see if this person's been involved in something in the past, so.
Right, in that particular case, Judy, I would recommend that the facts you gave to me, I would recommend that you call the local police right away when that kind of thing happens, and give as much information as you can. As Mr. Musa says, license plates, et cetera, can be tracked back fairly easily, as well as any electronic information we can track pretty rapidly. But
Okay. Thanks, Ken. We're going to move on to the next
you betcha, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
item. And that would be the setting the number of the assistant state's attorneys. It's currently 67. We'll be adding 2, which will be 69. As I've mentioned before, with the growth of population, with with special units that we get very good results from, it does need additional manpower. So, but primarily this would be 2 additional. On the criminal or civil side, I know you don't really always, on the criminal side, so I'll make that clear.
Comments relative to that. I'm sure you're going to be sending it out to committee, and that'd be fine. But I would like
I
to.
think I'm gonna, this is gonna get moved to the board next week.
Okay, very good.
The committee's here. This is the committee.
Well, if I may have just a couple of minutes, then I'd like to explain to you why and why I'm coming to you right now.
Okay?
Is that all
You're on the
right?
clock.
Okay.
Hurry up, I'm gonna time you.
Thank you so much. As you know, we have a set amount of assistant state's attorneys, and we try very effectively to manage those. Traditionally, we've had 4 assistants in the felony courtrooms, 3 in the misdemeanor courtrooms. And over the last several years, and one of the first questions I know you'd be asking, or I'd be asking if I were sitting where you are, is why now? Why didn't you come to me back in October, September, earlier, and say, hey, I need more assistance? And the reason is, I think, let me explain the reason. As I said before, with the VSIs, we run about an average of 345 or 350 victim-sensitive interviews at the Child Ad Center. Starting around October of last year, all of a sudden we saw a huge uptick in the number of VSIs, or victim-sensitive interviews, that we're doing. So we would average normally about 5, maybe 6 VSIs a week, normally at the center. And I had our director come up to me and says, we had 22 this week. And I said, 22? And that was towards the end of October, beginning of November. Well, now, granted, not every one of those translates into a felony charge against somebody, but the manpower that it takes to handle 22 as opposed to 5 is enormous. And remember, I indicated earlier on in the Child Ad Center overview that at every one of these VSIs, we have one of our assistant state's attorneys there, and I'm not just saying a misdemeanor assistant state's attorney. These are senior felony people that are in communication with the interviewer and analyzing these cases as to whether they should be charged, if not charged, or if they are charged, what are we going to charge them with, et cetera, et cetera. So the manpower requirement for that is enormous. Each one of these victim-sensitive interviews take time. They take time for reviewing the police reports, all of the background information that we may have before we go into the interview. They meet prior to the victim-sensitive interview with the interviewer, all of the team, basically. They then go in for anywhere from a half-hour interview up to a 3-hour interview, depending on the facts and circumstances. So that's one of these may take the better part of a day. Well, all of a sudden, instead of having 5 or 6 in a week, we have 22. And so on a weekly basis, then I would be going down and checking with the Child Ad Center, where are we at? And it wasn't dropping. It kept staying in the 20s. And I, of course, went to the state's attorney right away, advised him in the latter part of December, as these cases do turn into criminal cases, we're not talking Class 4 felony retail theft cases. We're not talking this day, I'm not minimizing any of these other cases, but we're not talking about a battery case. We're talking about an extremely complex case where you're dealing with children who have to be prepared. We've got family issues that we're dealing with on a continuing basis. And again, I give gratitude to the county board for increasing the number of victim witness advocates we have, because that's critical. These families need to have interaction with the victim witness advocates to understand what's going on, understand the system. But along with the victim witness advocates, it takes on the assistant state attorney to be there, because they want to talk to them. I'm sorry, Mr. Musil, am I taking up too much of your time?
I'm gonna give you a salesman's advice. Once you've made the sale,
You got it.
be quiet.
Thank you very much.
Have him sign the contract. Got a motion, second? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Musil, County Board members.
Yeah, that's it. We start playing I'm gonna get one of those, start playing music, you know?
Wait, we got number 3, declaring.
Declaring the sheriff's seized vehicles surplus and authorizing disposal. Move second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Declaring vehicles as surplus and authorizing disposal. Move second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Naperville for household hazardous waste collection. Move second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Solar rooftop update.
You want to maybe ask Dean to wait till next?
You know what, Dean? How long is this presentation, Dean? And you know what I am interested, if there's any money, grant money for residential.
We are getting for a free grant to develop all this, and now we have 9 vendors versus the 1 that we had to work with, and then they didn't negotiate. Remember, you had, the board had given us authorization to do a power purchase agreement with Solar City. There's about 9 reasons why we couldn't negotiate. There was a lot of them, and they knew that at that point they were it. So now we have 9, and we also are adding River Valley with the PBC's approval next week. So that could make that area, that whole site neutral. In other words, nothing coming off the grid. So if we're able to get that approved. So anyway, I just wanted to make you aware of where we were at, that Solar City, that didn't work out, but we were able to join in this bigger process. I think it'll be better. We have these 9 firms to work with. You know, they're going to send a bid in, most likely. A lot of them went to the tours today. And hopefully the PBC will say it's fine to do the rooftop over there. And then there's 8 acres, you know, next to that facility. If they want to do that, we can also add that and then find a way to use that power as well. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know so you weren't caught off guard. Why are we bringing another one of these next month for approval? So that way you know.
Okay.
That's the reason.
Thanks, Dean. Dean, why have you here too?
Sure.
Did you have a question? No. Why I have you here real quickly, next month, and I don't know what committee yet, it could just be the executive committee. I'd like to get an update, maybe the legislative committee, I'd like to get an update on the quarry, construction debris dumped in the quarries. I'd like to get, maybe we get an update on your monitoring of those.
Okay.
You know, well, we've got, you know, what issues we've had or maybe not have had. So I think it's time to, you know, because we're probably going to get, you know, that will continue on our legislative initiatives.
Absolutely,
For that
sure.
water monitor, underground water monitoring. But I think in general, maybe just an update
Yeah.
on your experiences over the last year with these
Sure.
facilities. right?
Absolutely, sure,
Okay.
whatever you want to know.
I'll just let you know
share
what
it.
committee.
Yeah.
I'm thinking executive committee because there's more folks at the executive committee, so.
Sure.
So figure I'm in the next executive committee,
Sure.
all right? Thanks.
Okay, yeah, absolutely, sure.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Washington Township for the mobility management. Moved, second, all in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. Replacement hires for the supervisor assessments office. Moved, second, all in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. Proclamations, Mr. Brooks,
We
Mr.
have two of them. Yeah, we do. We have two of them. One is recognizing January 24th through the 30th as the Will County School Choice. And then we're also going to recognize someone in the room, but we're not going to say who it is right now.
Okay,
The first one will just be read into the record.
Yes, the first
Okay.
one will be read into the record. And then the second one will party down.
okay, next we have the appointments of the county executive. Moved, second, all in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries.
That's it? Other new business?
Okay, other new business, okay, we'll go, is there any other new business?
Yeah, you want to move make a motion to move the framework for building Will forward?
You want to do that under your report? Put on your, okay, put on yours. Okay, land use committee, Mr. Weigel, you have anything for us today?
We have one zoning case and one historic landmark. Any questions?
Okay, any questions? Thank you, Tom. Finance committee, Mr. Frizzalone?
Yeah, transferring funds within the state's attorney's drug forfeiture budget. We are also identifying transferring appropriations for the DuPage River feasibility study. And we are authorizing the county executive to execute necessary documents to the tax program. And I would like to add,
Want to add an ordinance giving authorization for bonding.
for bonding for the Building Will program.
So it'll be a bond authorization resolution.
Okay?
Bonding
Do we
au-
need to move,
Yes,
make a motion on that?
well,
He made the motion.
he made a motion, second. A motion second to add that to the finance committee agenda. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Public Works, Mr. Gould?
We have a lot of contracts to award this month. Many are small, things like signs, metal posts, et cetera. We have a large contract, however, for rebuilding Briggs Street from Mills Road to Route 52. That's on the agenda for next week. And some other things, if anyone has any questions.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Gould? Okay, moving along, judicial, Ms. Freitag?
That'd be
Oh,
done.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I get mixed up sometimes. She's capital. No, you know what? You know, you're the best-looking 50-year-old man I've seen today. How's that?
Pushing you by a couple days, doesn't he?
That's all right, close enough, you know. Chuck's gonna bring you some cupcakes Saturday.
Today's the day, you're right on.
Yeah,
Good call. We've got nothing from judicial this month. so
okay.
thank you.
Public health and safety, Ms. Ogala?
I just have one thing, award a bid for therapy services at Sunny Hill.
Okay, any questions for Judy? Okay, legislative, Suzanne?
Yeah, we're just working on the federal agenda where they have the call-in next month, and our committee will go ahead and okay the priorities for this year and getting ready for our trips.
Okay. Any questions for Suzanne? Suzanne, on our legislative agenda, or we've been doing it separately on this water monitoring for the
Right,
quarries?
water monitoring with the CCP.
Is that, I'm trying to recall, is that part of our legislative agenda, or we're doing that separately?
No, that is part of it. That
It
is
is.
on our agenda, which has been ongoing. And then we have it, I was just talking to Dean about it a little earlier, that Hassett and Curry will be
Okay.
hopefully getting
Some
a
updates?
sponsor for that now as well.
Okay.
They did get their sponsor, Senator Bertino is going to be sponsoring for our Quick Take, and Emily, I think they're saying getting Emily
Casey.
Casey in the House for Quick Take. But I know, I just text Hassett now and see if what's going on, because the 22nd is the deadline.
Okay, very good, thank you. Capital, now we're to Ms. Freitag.
We have a resolution for demolition of the Eagle Building. I think that's our only resolution, and then we made a decision to take over the juror parking. There's no resolution on it, technically there's no contract, but we'll send Juliet notice on that. And then we directed the executive to start negotiating with White on a future contract.
Okay. Any questions for Reagan? Well, you know, I'm, you know, I have a different view. I mean, I think it probably is going to require some discussion.
Okay.
I have, you know, I don't think we should move necessarily forward with the next phase of, with White until we actually have a CM in place.
Okay.
Which we're in the
okay.
process of doing. So,
Okay.
you know, I might have a little different view than, so I think this is going to require a little bit of a discussion. I see no rush. I mean, so White continues to do their work. Their contract only goes through conceptual. You know, we do need to start getting to hard design, but the reason I like the idea of a CM being on board with that is because this is going to be driven by budget in a lot of aspects, and I think with them working together could produce a better result.
Do we know
And I think we need to spell it out in these agreements or contracts on you know how perhaps it'll be driven. So that's just mine. So Reagan.
Nick has a
Can I just ask, Mr. Musto?
Yeah.
We have had one initial discussion with White. Are you saying you want the construction manager involved in those negotiations?
No.
I just want to make sure.
No. I think that we need to sit down
Okay.
internally, you know, and
Discuss the parameters of that.
and discuss the parameters of the contracts for both. I mean, it doesn't mean, you know, I guess what I'm saying, you can talk. It's,
Well,
it-
we got a preliminary meeting, we kind of.
you know, I don't see,
We're not ready to bring the contract to the board.
but you know what I'm saying. I think while we're doing that, we have to keep in mind how they're going to perhaps work together, you know.
Okay.
And, you know, for example, White would still be responsible, they're going to bring on the, you know, they'd still be responsible, for example, the engineering company that comes in. I mean, I think you need to make those kind of things clear. So, you know, you know, everybody really comes under White, but you want to have the flexibility of a construction manager to push on concepts and cost, or to say when they think things are costly. So you want the ability for them to work basically independently, but still most of the primary contracts would go under White. I mean, the CM ultimately, once we get through design, they're just responsible for the construction, the brick and mortar part. But I would like to have the ability to push on price and so forth, so. It's
Do
not
we
that
know-
all that complicated.
Mr. Speaker, when the case manager will be on board?
Construction
I mean, the
manager,
construction manager?
the construction manager interviews will be, what, Nick, with the returns are,
Those are in view?
David, you over there?
We're on a very tight schedule. The responses are due on the 22nd of this month, and then we'll distribute them to the evaluation committee. We've allotted about 1 month's time to, for that evaluation committee to meet, for the shortlisted firms to be interviewed, and then a recommendation to the capital committee on the on the March 1st meeting. So we'll take 5 weeks to do what we got to do to make a recommendation, and plan to make a plan to do so in March, early March.
And then if you could reach out to the chief judge, I know he's going to be out of town sometime in February, just for scheduling purposes for that.
Okay.
And David, you understand what I'm trying to get to with the, you know, you want a CM that can basically also help push design based on cost and efficiencies. So,
And we're seeing the benefits of the CM with the sheriff's project, because our CM is very good, it's helping keep things moving.
But he's
Dave-
pushing in those
Yeah,
directions.
their staff and Dave Tack are keeping them going, so.
I guess.
a short way of saying is the CM works for the county, not for White.
Right.
We need to make that clear. And they take direction from the county. It's not like, I don't think we can continue to, I think we should continue to talk to White. I'm just saying that,
But we're not going to approve a contract until we get that construction manager on board, because then they can, it was what you're saying, right? So that we can, then they can work in tandem together as we go forward.
scopes, I guess, is what it comes down to, right?
Okay.
Okay? The other thing is that the commission, construction commission, is that what it is? Agent? No. We haven't used them. Is it a construction, is it a commissioner?
Oh, commissioning, yeah.
Pardon me?
Commissioning agent.
Commissioning agent, that's it. Should we also be putting something out for that?
I'll have a draft RFQ available for the board's review within a week. No, I haven't done it yet, but I've started on it. It's not fully prepared yet, but I sense that we were moving in that direction some time ago. So.
Well, I would.
Yes, go ahead.
I would just, I don't know, we're talking about commissioning agents, but I would suggest that the commissioning agent work directly for the county.
Correct.
He's not.
They only work for us.
He's an independent that way. He's not,
Commissioning agent only works for the county. It does not work for,
we used to, when I was
the
an air
architect,
balancer- when
the
I was an air
architecture
balancer,
firm.
we would always say, we didn't make it, we didn't install it.
You'd be defeating the whole purpose.
We're
if
just
we-
telling you it don't work.
Yeah, we'd be defeating the whole purpose if we didn't work directly for the county. So Reagan, maybe we should put that on your agenda, this commissioning agent for next month, just to keep it on something, okay, just to have it on. So we'll add, we'll say commissioning agent to the capital improvements committee agenda, so we can get an update, and just maybe leave it on there so it's in front of us, so we don't forget about it. Okay, so you want to make that motion to put that on your agenda? Motion, second, all in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. Okay, anything else any questions for Reagan? Executive committee, any questions for me? Okay, any public comments today? Anyone have any other comments from the board? I have no statements. There's no need for executive session. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Moved, second, all in favor? Aye. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved, second, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries.